One man stands head and shoulders above the rest. His strength, endurance, and gymnastic abilities are unparalleled.
Yo, Chris Bumstead has just won his 4th consecutive Mr. Olympia title in the Classic division. Very big distinction between Classic and the Open division. The Open division are those giant motherfuckers. They're out of control. People will look at those guys and they'll either say, whoa, what are they thinking? Why did they do that to themselves? Or they'll be impressed, and I'm on the edge of that, will be impressed by those while knowing that there's no way in hell that I'm ever going to get there. There is a subset of people that look at the Classic divisions, and I was one of them at one point. You look at those people and you say, okay, that's attainable. And then there's a point in your life where you figure out that there's no way in hell you're ever going to do that. I tried. 18 to 22 years old, I tried to get as big as I could, and I got up to like 206. I had just eaten like 3 bowls of Chipotle, and I jumped on the scale, and I was 206. Didn't look like Chris Bumstead, nothing like it. And then you find out that there's hormone usage in professional bodybuilding, and it's not frowned upon, it's just kind of the name of the game. And then you rewire your head a little bit. Chris Bumstead, having won 4 consecutive titles, is now in contention for being one of the best bodybuilders of all time, up there with the person that really so much got me into the headspace of weightlifting, and that's Arnold Schwarzenegger. He won 7 consecutive titles. He is the figurehead and the spearhead for an entire generation of people to go work out, train, and become the best versions of themselves. And there's a reverse engineering in there where at some point in time I figured out that that was never going to be what I could be in the end. That is, unless I wanted to implement some performance enhancers, and 10 years later I've done that, but at that point in time I'm happy that I did not do that. There are some people who do, and the reason that I'm talking about all of this is because people are so freaking short-sighted. They look at Chris Bumstead, I looked at Schwarzenegger. They say, I want to look like that. They try to do everything that they can, learn as much as they can. Maybe they don't even do any learning. They just skip the learning process and they say, how do I get there? Here's a pill. I take a pill. Oh, that's Dianabol. And then all of a sudden they're all fucked up. They got to figure it out. They lose all their muscle and then they gain 30 pounds of belly fat. For the rest of their lives, they'll remember that one time that they took that Dianabol and they looked like a brick shit house for 3 weeks. Oh yeah, I benched 3 plates for 10 reps and I squatted 4 plates once and I didn't even hit parallel, but they think they hit parallel. And they'll live and die with that picture of what they think that they looked like at that time forever. Fast forward another couple of years and maybe they're 50 or 60 years old. They're like 25, 35% body fat. They're couch ridden. Every time they look down, it's just like this unsurmountable mountain of belly fat. And it just would have been an incredibly good service for them to have known that at that point in time that there is another version of somebody out there, something that you should be going for. While Chris Bumstead has the potential, it's up to the individual in that position to make the right choices, and people are so freaking stupid. And it's not that they're stupid, it's that they don't even know to think for themselves and go figure it out. There are channels out there like Greg Doucette and More Plates, More Dates, which are doing huge things for the world in the education process of people so that they don't make the stupid mistakes to ruin the rest of their lives. There is another way. There's another way. Let's say you did want to go down the Chris Bumstead route, and let's just say you were me at 22 years old and you go, okay, I figure that I got to use some performance enhancers. I'm going to do this thing. I don't know whether or not my body's going to respond well to the performance enhancers. Maybe if I take the right stuff, I'm going to respond really well and then I can compete with him. And you know what? By all means, that might be the thing. I don't know. I didn't do it. You don't know unless you try, right? Bumstead tried. It worked out for him. He's got the genetic gift. He's got the muscle inserts. He put in the work and now this is the end product. But for every one of him, there's going to be 10,000 other people that it didn't work for that are now paying the consequences of that. My version of the Dianabol was an extreme thing. And when I talk consequences, I think you train like Chris Bumstead, you take the things in order to become Chris Bumstead. I'm talking performance enhancers. You do the training that Chris Bumstead does, you eat the way he eats, and then before you know it, you don't look like him, but you've put on a lot of muscle mass. You've done so with very limited conditioning. And when you throw on all of that excess muscle, and you likely also don't have the body fat percentage he does, because people, when they eat the way he eats, they don't eat the way he eats. They just put on a bunch of weight. Maybe 50% muscle and 50% fat, if they're lucky. And before you know it, I went from a 206-pound individual at 22, and the other path that I could have gone down was I get up to 250. I put on 25 pounds of muscle, 25 pounds of fat. I'm fucking huge. I did so while not doing any conditioning. And what happens is I think of a car. I think of a 2002 Toyota Camry. You take the engine out of that thing, you take it out at 50,000 miles, which is my 22-year-old equivalent. It's like, this thing's got another 150,000 miles on it. This dude's gonna live to 80 or 90 years old. You take that engine and you throw it into a Suburban. It's like, all right, you're not gonna change anything. We're just just gonna hook it up and see what it's got. And that Suburban came out of nowhere. It's like the engine isn't made for that. It's not made to operate there. The people who put the car together at Toyota made everything so that it worked with the frame and the weight of that car. And now it's trying to do something else. And you know what? Toyotas are awesome machines. They are made to last 200,000 miles. Not many engines will do that for you. But now that you put it into this thing that weighs upwards of 3 times as much, it doesn't understand the way that it works. You're moving around. That thing shits out in a 25 to 30,000 miles. And that's called the exact reason, in my opinion, why a handful of bodybuilders die early. The heart is the engine of the human body. It was made when you were born, conceived by your parents. It has a trajectory for the rest of your life. Like, hey, this is where I can do. This is what I'm capable of. I'm going to be able to power this 206-pound human, but not really. I don't even really like that he's that heavy. But now he's 250, and he's a Suburban. The amazing thing about the human body, unlike the Toyota and the engines, they don't change. This thing can change to an extent or degree. You could probably keep up with something like maybe a Chevy Traverse or maybe even a Tahoe. Let's just say I turned into a Tahoe, and all the while as I was doing the Chris Bumstead training methods and I was doing the eating, I was doing some long, slow conditioning, I was breathing heavy, I was doing various things where I had my heart in mind. There's a version of me where I maybe was able to yield a 210, 215 physique with a heart that would work up to par with that physique. There are not very many huge people out there who live to be 100. All the 100-year-olds that you'll see, they're very small. And it's almost like that heart that they've got is having an easier time working with them for as long as it works with them. The bigger you are, the harder you fall. And in my opinion, it's even worse when you weren't even made to be that big in the first place. You become that big through exogenous sources, and then you're out. Which brings me to the point of this video, which is we got this guy who's inspiring all of these people. It's not his job to go and educate everybody. It'd be cool if he did it. If he saw something like this and he goes, oh, I'm sure he's aware of it as well. But he's got a whole bunch of crap to do. I'll relay it to the 20,000 or so people who want to watch this. If they do, it'd be cool. There's an individual out there who doesn't have 13.3 million subscribers. He has not won 4 consecutive Mr. Olympia titles and twice runner-up before those 4. He has 16,000 Instagram subscribers. Does not have a professional media team following him around. And due to those things, the influence of this individual are much smaller. The physique, while it might not be impressive to the masses the way that Chris Bumstead's physique is impressive, it depends on who's looking at it. If you ask anyone if this person's physique is impressive, they would say yes. This person is of course a CrossFit Games athlete, has qualified 8 times for that, can back squat 350 pounds, clean and jerk 225 pounds, snatch 175 pounds, deadlifts well over 400 pounds, is a former triathlete, lives in Tennessee, owns a gym, can do ring muscle ups, rope climbs, has proven that when you put yourself through the steps, you can live a long and healthy life and show people what you're capable of for the rest of it, while doing so without using performance enhancing drugs, spreading a message of health and wellness, and of those 8 CrossFit Games appearances has won 3 of them. Also has a 3rd place finish, 3 5th place finishes, and a 9th. The athlete that I'm talking about is David Hippensteel.
When you think of Masters CrossFit athletes, one man stands head and shoulders above the rest. Dave Hippensteel. At 63 years old, Hippensteel is a husband, father, and dentist, and a staunch competitor in CrossFit. His name usually found at the top of the leaderboard. His strength, endurance, and gymnastic abilities are unparalleled. Hippensteel has notched 3 consecutive CrossFit Games championships.
I bet if you put up David Hippensteel up against Chris Bumstead on any particular workout, Hippensteel would be able to hold his own, if not beat the 4-time Mr. Olympia Classic Physique winning champion. Chris actually has a workout on his YouTube channel where he's doing it with Will Tennyson. It's at a CrossFit affiliate.
That was rough.
His performance is incredibly impressive, much better than I would have imagined he could have done. It's 30 calories on the rower, 20 burpees over the rower done laterally, 40 double dumbbell deadlifts with 70-pound dumbbells in each hand. You go back, you do 20 more lateral burpees over the rower, and then you finish with a 30-calorie row. He finishes at just under 8 minutes. I believe that his time was 7 minutes and 55 seconds. As you're watching him do the workout, you'll see that he doesn't really understand how to move, and maybe he's doing certain things because he's worried about potentially injuring himself. This isn't in this sport. He's doing this for fun. At the end of it, he finishes with a time that is very impressive for somebody at that size. The entire beginning of this, I brought up the heart and pumping blood to the body. How hard is it working? When you are that size, it works much, much harder to oxygenate the muscles, which is likely why at the end of the workout, he's dying on the ground. I do venture to bet that if you had Hippensteel do that exact same workout, he would probably get beaten. Probably because he can't power the rower the same way that Bumstead did, and he probably wouldn't be able to handle the dumbbells the way that he has. I bet he could hold his own on those burpees, but mind you, he's more than twice the age of Chris Bumstead. And at which rate, if you gave him a comparable weight on the dumbbells to a weight where it made sense for his age, I think that he'd probably be able to beat him. And then he wouldn't just beat him. When he was done, he wouldn't be on his back dying at the end of it, because Hippensteel's heart at the age of 66 that he is, I believe, is a much more efficient thing, much healthier body. It can pump to a system that has built up the capillary density to power all the muscles everywhere, that just works like a freaking fine-tuned, brand new Toyota Camry from the year 2002 as if it's never been driven. If people like David Hippensteel had 13.3 million followers, there's a good chance that the world would be getting a better message for the ways that people should be training for longevity.
You know, our bodies were designed to respond to exercise and adventure, things like that. I think that's part of keeping your life in balance. We're here to give a message to the world, like, be fit, keep being fit. We're fighting chronic disease. That's the war we're in.
Without being as short-sighted as saying, I want to look like that, I'm going to look like that. Doing things that might potentially harm them for the rest of their lives. And if you were to ask me, right now, what is it that you want, Andrew? And I suppose that it's a game of odds. You can look like Hippensteel or you can look like Bumstead. Hippensteel is going to live to 90. Or you can look like Bumstead, and there's a 50% chance you don't make it past 50. There's a 75% chance you don't make it past 55. There's a 90% chance you don't make it past 60. And every year after that, the likelihood that you're not going to make it increases drastically. I'm sure that that's not going to make a lot of people happy. And while he's a freak, he'll probably live to 100. And by all means, I hope that he lives to be 100 years old. In order to be the best, you got to take risks. It's the old Olympic saying. It's like, hey, we asked everyone at the Olympics if they could win an Olympic medal right now. They died 5 years later, would they do it? And everyone was like, yeah, I'd do that. But in the case of Hippensteel, you don't have to. Train the heart. Andrew Hiller, out.